I want to welcome everyone to the Rockland Board of Sewer Commissioners working session on Wednesday, October 24th, 2022. Present are Ms. Sherry Valley and Dan DeRoss will be late, and myself, Charles Hession, Chuck Hession. With that, I'll take a motion to open the meeting.
Motion.
I'll second that. All in favor? Ms. Valley?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Hession's a yes. That's a quorum and unanimous. The public is welcome to attend these meetings. They will be recorded by WRPS for playback, available tomorrow. Minutes are taking. The public is welcome to attend these meetings, but we take no questions at them as if we're just to work through an agenda. However, if you have questions, please submit them via email or in person, and we'll be more than happy to address them at the next working session, which is probably next Wednesday. With that, I'll take a motion to approve the minutes of August 2nd and August 17th. I had no problems with them.
Great. Motion.
So I'll take a motion to approve them.
Motion to approve.
Second, all in favor? Ms. Valley?
Yes.
And Mr. Hession's a yes. I owe you 2 sets of handouts.
Yes.
With that said, I've asked Ms. Callahan to come in. She's Director of Human Resources for Rockland, to just give us a brief update on the interviewing process and discuss questions. I do not want to talk about the questions out loud for confidentiality purposes, but so Sherry, how we did this last time, we had 2 sets of interviews, first and second. We prepared a list of questions for Stacy, and she cataloged them. Mm-hmm. And we designated who is to ask what for a flow. And I'm going to let Stacy go into it. But what I want you and Dan to do is look at those questions for the first interview. Even look at the past interviews and maybe do a lessons learned. What didn't we ask? What we should have asked? And if you have any new questions for the first interview, when would you like them by?
Well, I'm only here until tomorrow. Tomorrow's
Okay.
my last day before, but I am coming back on the 7th. I'm not going to take that full week.
Okay.
So I'm happy to be a part of the interviews or observe, or if you want me there at all, I'm happy to be there if you'd like me there.
I guess, have you scheduled them yet?
So there's 2 scheduled. I don't have the numbers in front of me of
You got a date, that's all we care about.
the 7th.
The 7th.
So I have 2 scheduled. The 6 and the 7 o'clock have responded with a yes. The 5 p.m. I still have not heard from.
Okay. Is that going to be up at the studio? Or?
At the studio, it will not be. It will be recorded and then played. It won't be live.
Okay.
So I have from 5 to 8:30 booked.
Okay.
So I'm thinking that honestly, by the end of today, I think I'll maybe try to reach out to that first one. Mm-hmm. And if there's no response, or if they're not interested in the interview, would you prefer that I try to move the 6 and the 7 up so that you start at 5, or do you want to leave it 6, 7, 7, 8?
It is rather than confuse them.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, with that said, I don't think I should see, confidentially, can I take the questions from Sherry and Dan, or is that a violation of the open meeting law?
No, I think that falls under the policy. I'm not the best with
Okay.
the open meeting law. I don't.
Okay, tell you what, if you could get me your questions, if you have them, why don't we say by next, we have by next Wednesday. That's our next meeting.
Mm-hmm. And I think I sent a copy of the questions in one of those emails.
Yes,
but
you did.
I do have the copy of the first final interviews and the second interviews.
Okay.
You know, if you want to leave here with
Okay.
a copy of them.
But why don't you go over the ground rules one more time?
Sure. Well, really what we did last time is we welcomed the commissioner, had a little something to say, introduced everybody at the beginning of the interviews. We brought everybody in, and then, like Chuck said, we each had questions. So our name was next to a question, so that the flow of the process.
Stacey, if I could ask you to hold off 1 second, Dan.
Sure.
Just going into Stacy, you've met Dan
Hi, Dan.
before,
How
haven't
are
you?
you? How you doing?
It's good to see you.
I'm gonna get a busy week this week.
Dan, we're on tape. So Dan has just joined us, so I'm gonna ask Stacy to repeat that. Dan, what we're doing is going over the ground rules for the interviews, which are gonna be September 7th, 6 and 7 o'clock. So with that said,
It possibly might be 5, 6, and 7. I just haven't heard from the first interview candidate.
It'll be after Labor Day, right?
September 7th.
Yeah.
Yes.
so
That's a
you were gonna go over
Tuesday.
question formatting and,
yes. Actually, that's a Wednesday. It's September 7th. I'll have to check, but it's after Labor Day. So the formatting. So I think it worked pretty well the last time we did it. So there was an introduction. And then the questions are laid out where everybody that, if you're not comfortable asking questions, then the people that are comfortable will, will take turns. Our names will be next to each question. And then if you're not comfortable, then, we always say that it's good to just, you can observe, take notes and things of that sort.
I'm at a meeting.
And I think it went pretty smoothly. We try to keep it on task
Amanda.
because obviously they can run, you don't want to go over that
Amanda.
hour. That's a pretty
yep.
long time. And then we can always call people
Okay.
back if you feel a second interview is needed. As far as the questions, once they're finalized, to make sure everybody has a copy of them. There's a do's and don'ts, which I think I've emailed before too, but I would definitely suggest going over it because we don't want to be asking questions on age and gender, criminal history, things of that sort. So I definitely would recommend taking a look at it.
Now, do you look into their backgrounds?
So once we interview, and if you have a final candidate or final candidates that you want to bring back, then we'll go out and have them fill out an FCRA, which is a form that allows us to, they sign, send it back to me, and we'll go out and do a full background check.
Can I add something to that? Now, I was told at a selectmen's meeting that the commission should have do some background checking. And I'm not, and the reason I did not before is I believe that's a human resource responsibility, and I don't want to step on your toes.
Yeah, you're not stepping on my toes. I mean, the commissioners have the full right to do whatever it is you want to do during this process. I mean,
Okay,
I'm just really here to help and assist. I'm happy. The full background check I absolutely recommend.
That's
Whether
your-
you do
that's your
something
mission.
on your own and make a phone call, if I can't control that. I can't.
Okay, what I would
it's
like
not
to do is
something-
I would like to make a motion that Stacy do the background check as per the regs and per town policy. And if either of you or any of us want to do some background checking on our own, I don't have a problem, but coordinate it through me so I can let Stacy know that you're going to be doing so. And if you do, record who you spoke to, the date, and all the questions you asked. But let's coordinate it before the fact with Stacy. Okay?
Got it.
Oh, one other thing.
In the background check too, just to give you an idea, is candidates will always give their references, which this company will go out and call each one, but they also go to each of their previous employment histories as well. So they don't only go to the references that are given; they do call the human resources or whoever's in charge of the previous employments.
And one other thing is that you have to ask each candidate the same question. You can't deviate.
Yeah, I mean that's just the fairest way to do it. I mean there are some situations where a candidate might answer a question and it might spark a follow-up question, and that's okay.
Okay.
But we should ask the same questions just to keep it fair and accurate for every candidate to be able to at least answer those same questions.
So I'm going to say that follow-up questions to answers given by candidate are acceptable.
Sure. I mean that's just part of the process. And sometimes you'll if you do ask a question, the candidate might give you a lot more information than you may have asked, or they kind of incorporated a couple of questions into that one question. So you just kind of take a look as you're going along. You don't, if they've answered it, we don't necessarily need to ask the question again, unless you're looking for more information and you could always say, well, based on your previous answer, I understand that that you have this background or that this is your expertise, but would you mind expanding upon that? Or did you have anything else to add? You can certainly do things of that sort, because there's going to be times where somebody might answer 2 or 3 questions throughout the process without actually having to ask the question.
Okay, what about if those questions, say an answer generates a question and it piques your interest, can you ask that question to the following candidate? Or, I don't know, maybe save it for a second interview.
Well, it's...
See, if I have candidate A in, and it goes, then we go to candidate B, and candidate B gives us an answer that we want further, enlightenment on. We said, gee, we should have asked that candidate, but we can always do that in a second interview.
Sure.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, again, it's, it's really just more for consistency purposes and to
Okay.
make sure you get the same information. But again,
Right.
if there is a question that you want to follow up, you certainly can do that.
Okay. Are you going to be there present, or you
So
won't
I can be there now. I'm going to be back on the 7th. So
Well, if that's the day
it's-
coming back, that's not fair.
It's up to. Oh no, I'm perfectly. I just planned it out.
Yeah, but you get such a long commute across the road from your office to the studio.
to the studio. I know that's going to be a tough one to make for me. So
Why don't we leave it up to you if you want to
So
come?
I'm
then
fine.
I'll-
I'm just throwing it out there. I'm totally fine with it at this point. I've
I'm more
already
comfortable
scheduled
with
it.
you there, to be
Okay.
honest with you.
Then that's fine.
Yeah,
I can be there.
I'd appreciate it.
I have sat on trial boards. That's, I'll look at it different. You ask any question you want.
Yeah, that's a little bit different.
So, no, I just feel to keep it up and up, and, I just feel more comfortable having Stacy there.
That's fine. And if you want me, if you want me to ask the questions or just start with the first question and then, I don't know.
Why
The
don't we get
last
the
one I
question-
went through it, but if
Yeah, why don't
three
we
of
get
you
the
want to
questions out?
ask and I can sit back, observe, take notes, whatever.
Oh, you just one person can
Whatever
ask the
you
questions, then we sit back and,
Well,
yeah, they're gonna add something to it, you can add something to it.
yeah, sure. I mean, I think it did work well the last time when we had. Well, it was really Chuck and myself, right? Was it
Yeah,
just the
you
two? It
and
was
I
just the
just
two
did
of
it,
us that
yeah.
asked. But again, the chairman was at that time wasn't really comfortable asking questions, so he gave me all of the questions to include. So I think it's really just a matter of your comfortability.
Yeah, I think it went pretty smooth last time, so. So what we discussed before you showed up was if you could get all your questions, that you look at the first one, and the first questions for the first interview, and if you have additional questions, and you want to get them to me so I can write them all down and get them, I'll put them down on Word format and get them to you. And before that starts, we can figure out who's going to ask what, or we could even do that at the working session. Sound good?
Would you prefer a copy of the questions here?
Yes, you
Right.
can, yeah.
I thought you-
It's really important that you read those questions, and because if you see any more that you'd like to ask, like I said, just jot them down.
Sure,
But make sure they follow that
I
guidline.
can re-email them to you too if you want,
I
Sherry.
think I have that.
Yeah, I did send them.
If you don't, I can send them out. I have that, so I can send that to you again to make sure you have them. And if you don't have copies of the questions, drop a quick email to Stacy tomorrow. And the only thing I didn't see the second time around was that score sheet.
Oh, I have it right here. I can email it.
Yeah, if you would.
Yep.
I
I
didn't
think it
think
was
it-
on that same email, but
Okay,
if
then
not,
if it is,
I
I have it.
can re-email all of this so that it's a current email and you have it all. The score sheet is definitely helpful, especially if you have
Multiple
some-
candidates.
multiple candidates and, that you might be difficult choosing. Maybe if you have a couple that are really close, it's good to have the score sheet so that you can kind of say, have some feedback and conversations with each other about it.
And then one other thing we said is that the meetings are gonna be recorded, but they won't be live. They'll be available the next day. Because it has to be done in open public meeting. Now, there's a question for you. And no one's approached me or anything like that. I'm just trying to anticipate. What if some for the public says they want to attend? Can we say no? Watch the, can't just wait for it to be. I'm not anticipating. I'm not, I haven't heard, I'm just saying.
I
want
really
to be able
don't
to have
know
an
the
answer.
rules for that. I'd have to look into it.
I would say
I know that
no.
it was COVID before, when we did these before,
Right,
so.
I would say no. I would say
I
we
mean, I
just
don't-
keep it to us.
I really
If
don't
they want
think
to
it's
see
a
it's
good
going to
idea,
be
but,
broadcast live, they can see it then
right.
and have ample time to comment. Because there wouldn't be anyway, because we wouldn't allow them to be interrupting the interview. So there's really
Right.
no
Right.
purpose in being there.
Right.
No offense, public.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
No, as long as it's broadcast, I think
The
we're
process
covered.
is difficult enough for somebody going through the
Right.
interview on TV in public, and
No,
but
no.
again, as far as whether they're
I'll put that on, now should I publish an agenda for that, the interviews? Yes.
Yes.
Because it's a meeting. And I'll put on public is not invited, but they are welcome to watch. Okay. On the agenda, should I list the candidates' names? Or should we just say candidate A, B for now, A, B, C for now?
I think I would
And
just
let-
do that.
Okay.
I don't think I would put that on the agenda. I can go
I'm
back.
just thinking it can't
I'm trying to
be,
think if we
Because
could go
it's published
back
in
to the other
advance.
agenda to see the exact wording.
I don't think
could-
we did.
No, I
I
don't think
don't-
we did either. But I'm just thinking we could go back to that agenda and use the exact same wording.
Okay.
Do
you have a copy of it?
Robin probably did the agenda because I don't do them. I can look in my folder. I might have saved it, but I didn't. I definitely didn't write it.
Okay. That'd be February of last year. Okay. Any more questions for Stacy?
So once we've done the interviews, is it then an executive session to discuss?
Once we
Our
do
choices.
the interviews, I would say we have an executive session to discuss the pros and cons.
Okay.
I think you can only have the executive session for contract negotiations. I don't.
Oh, you know what? You know
Yeah,
what?
I think you have to talk about that publicly.
No, I think you're right. Because, but you know what we do is we'll discuss it referring to their alphabetical letter we designated.
Okay,
They do not know their lettering.
got it.
Well, I mean, I don't think you have to do that at that point when they're already public. I mean, when we watch, I mean, if you think back to the Board of Selectmen meetings,
You know what? Once they come in and they say their
We
name
just-
and all that, it's going to be public record anyway.
well, that's
Yeah,
exactly
you're right.
it. So
All right.
I don't think that's going to matter at that point.
The selectmen's meetings, they go into executive session, they're not public.
No, we
But
don't
they
have to,
go
no,
into
but this is
executive session
different.
unless
There's
it's
only
a
three,
contract.
there's only 3 reasons for executive session. So let's,
Yeah,
no,
like if you,
that's.
did you watch the, just the latest example was the police chief? So they all
No, I didn't.
interviewed
Yeah,
and
I
then
did see
they
that.
discussed each of them public
Yeah.
while they were there.
That's fine,
Okay.
because by then it's going to be out of the bag anyway, so
Okay.
All right.
that's all I have. Sherry?
So we were talking about contract versus town employee.
Right, I think we would like to go contract this time.
Okay,
So-
that's fine. I mean, I shouldn't say it's fine, but I'm pretty sure that I'd have to,
I'll send an email to Chris Kenny
yeah,
and say
I
this
would
will.
look into that. I mean, it's either near nor there. I mean, the employee at will is basically, it's an employee at will. If they're not doing a job or you go through that due process and
Mhm.
somebody's not working out, you can let them go. The contract, you will usually have to wait until the end of the contract. So if you wanted to
Yes.
wait, if you want to let somebody go, then you'd have to go through
A
the
buyout or
same
whatever.
process, but then you could cost the town more money if you have to pay them out. So,
After 6 months, you don't
there's-
want them.
Can you
You gotta
do,
pay for the other 6 months.
right,
yeah.
can we do an at-will for 6 months before offering the contract?
What, can I ask a question, like, why do you want the contract? Like, what,
I think that what we're in, I think we're all in agreement, the three of us, and if I'm wrong, jump in, that I think it leaves too much open for interpretation of who reports to who. By the chapter 40 end, the superintendent reports to the sewer commissioners.
right,
Right.
yeah, there would be no.
But the
question.
problem is, being a town employee, the person gets caught in the middle. Do you report to the Board of Selectmen?
No.
And that's what we've been finding out.
No, it's not caught in the middle. Even the so even for if we were to hire as an employee at will, they would get an appointment letter. And the appointment letter actually for the last superintendent actually states right in it, and it's signed by you, it's signed by the commissioners.
But see that?
And it states right in there.
Yes, it
All
does,
of
but
that
there was a lot of jumping around there in it.
Well, I mean, I'm just an
I wanna think-
observation
let's
that
think
all
about
of the
that.
town departments in some way, shape, or form, whether they're report to an elected board or not, have to come together with the town in order to make it run
No, I understand that.
cohesively.
Right.
But as far as
Yeah.
the reporting purpose, they would always have to go to the commissioners for
And I would,
policy and any of that.
Some
type
of it's going right by the commissioners and the superintendent didn't himself.
Well,
We
but
didn't know anything.
but you know what,
Okay,
that
I
would be
should-
us to document that.
Well, and it would be, the superintendent
Twice.
has a job to do, so the superintendent would has the authority to make the decisions, but they don't have the authority for policy, so it's your job to set the policy, and they would have to.
Those apologies, no sewer connections. They were-
No, no, no,
Well, I
no,
don't
no,
wanna-
that,
I
that,
don't- I
you're
can't
getting,
get
no,
in-
you're
I
getting
don't
out
wanna get
over,
into
you're
the
getting out
weeds,
over your
but-
skis with that.
Yeah, I don't want to
That
get
is-
into the weeds,
that's-
but that's just.
We approve the permits, it's nothing to do with the superintendent.
But he's been signing the
I think,
permits.
yeah, we're,
Let's think about that. and
Yeah.
Talk it over, I'll send Chris an
And I
email.
can send you both. I mean, it's just, the way I look at it is, and again, to me, it doesn't make any difference how you do it. But from a human resource standpoint, to be consistent, it's always better.
You know,
the
if
town
we
to be
just,
consistent.
if
But
we,
it lays it right out in there that they report to the
if we stress to
superintendents.
them that it's just gotta be, we gotta be communicated with and not after the fact, it would be no problem, employee at will, because they have to have that interaction with the town administrator. They have to sit at that board, his weekly meeting, so he knows what's going on.
Right.
As long as we make it clear that, we don't make the decisions, as long as we know about them up front and not after the fact. Except when it comes to connections of permits or fees of that. But if he's making decisions on what to do, that's his job, that's what we're paying him to do.
But after we get.
Yeah, you have to have some trust in
But
who you're
the
gonna
problem is
hire
after we
too,
get the
right?
okay
You
to
have
put the
to,
connections out there, he was a follow-up.
Yeah, but that's a permitting process, Dan. That's nothing to do with his day-to-day activities. He's gotta be free. He's gonna have some leeway. He can't call us with everything he's done.
I mean,
It doesn't make sense.
and we're paying, you're paying somebody, a department head
And
salary.
we're paying, you know what? we're-
That should be able to make
Right.
independent
Right,
decisions.
we're
I mean, that's
trusting this
important.
person.
Right,
And
we're hiring somebody
gotta have
with
to
the
trust them,
expertise to make
you know.
those decisions.
I think we'll leave it at that.
But you can, yeah.
can we continue to post this, John, while we're in the process of interviewing, or do you generally pull the ads until we've done the interviews?
No, I have not pulled the ads. We don't have to pull it.
Yeah, I wouldn't pull it.
No,
I heard from my nephew, and he said that every place is having problems with people. There's-
Oh, it's very
He
difficult.
says he works for the town of Marshall.
Just ask Rick what he's going through, trying to get people
Oh, yeah.
in.
I mean, have you seen I am going, you think you get to an end point and somebody's going someplace else and making even more money.
He
And
is almost
we're-
40 years with the town of Marshfield. He can't retire, doesn't have his age.
yeah, that's, we
All right.
have some people here. as
Do we have
well.
any more for Stacy? You?
Very helpful, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Now-
Let me know if you have.
All right, we'll
If
do.
we find out something bad about the person as we're going on, because I went to, one time, I looked up on the internet, I didn't have a good rap.
Well, we always, that's part of the backup.
Yeah.
That's part of the background investigation. And you get a copy of that. It will show anything from the internet that comes through and, you know, but of course you always want to make sure that, you know, not everything on the internet is 100% true. So you also want to make sure that the due diligence is done. And if something's on the internet, well, what was the final outcome? I mean, if misinformation's out there, you don't want to be penalizing somebody for that. But if something did happen, then of course we want to do our due diligence and hire somebody that's going to be the best fit for Rockland.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
you.
Thanks for
Thank
inviting
you.
me. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll send that.
We'll hire anytime you wish.
And by the way, good luck.
Oh, thank you.
Where you
Thank
going?
you. My daughter's,
to school.
my youngest is going off to college, so I'm going to be moving her in.
Whereabouts?
Just to Bridgewater. Not far, but she's my baby,
I
so.
don't feel my dog with the Rhode Island. It's the only times I made that trip in 1 week.
Yeah, oh yeah, I bet. What they forget. What
No,
they-
no, no, no.
Yeah.
I miss mommy.
Oh, I know. Well, she will
My
have her
daddy had to
cars.
drive mommy down.
No.
All right, why don't we move on to the
All right,
project manager?
thank you.
Thanks, Stacy.
All right, thanks, Stacy.
You're welcome.
Okay,
Take care.
next discussion is the
Nice meeting you.
project manager with Veolia. I had a conversation with John Oakley and Mike Burns today with Veolia. And what they would like to do, they look through the contract and feel that it's covered under the existing contract under additional scope of services that other tasks. They have an hourly rate for that in there. We can probably negotiate that as we go. And the beauty of it is it would be on a as-needed basis, and probably a lot of what we're gonna ask him to do could be done at home or where he is to eliminate travel. So what I've asked them to do is to both come in live in person next Wednesday with the person that they have in mind to take the position, and we talked to them. I had asked Dave to give us a current ongoing project detailed description of tasks, what have you. I haven't received that yet. I got an email from him saying we should have it by the end of this week, so we should have that for them next week. And what I'm looking at is really, it's just babysitting it and making sure we meet the deadlines. So, anyway, that's something to think about, what questions you'd want from those people next week. Naturally, if we come to agreement, I'm going to have it run by Chris Kenny, the attorneys, to make sure it is covered by the agreement. If they have any more conversation, and all I'm looking for is maybe a 6 months safety net for now, maybe longer, maybe lesser, until the new superintendent gets hired and gets his feet wet and what have you, he or she gets their feet wet.
But technically, they should be taking anything in these four walls should be done by.
They do, but that's where it gets catchy. The collection system is outside,
Yeah.
whether we look at it is inside the gates. The gates include this facility and also include the pump stations. But in the contract, I gotta send you a copy of the contract. If you look, they're responsible for markouts, grease traps, things of that nature, which would take away. I thought the superintendent was doing that, but if they're responsible, again, maybe,
They're only supposed to do sewer, not drain.
right, but in laterals. But maybe what we're gonna find out is by the time we get through with these interviews, we're looking at 4 weeks, 5 weeks out anyway. And hopefully that the project manager will tell us which way we gotta go. Any questions on that? Sherry?
No?
Okay, EPA order update. Scope of services to meet the September 1st deadline, EPA deadline for our response. I had a conversation, I had a conversation with Kevin Olson, the project manager for Wright Pierce, who is handling the CWMP contract anyway. Dave Taylor, myself, and Mike, and Adam Higgins, I believe. I'm sorry about that, Adam, if you're listening. I'm terrible with name. Where is it? Adam Higgins, I was right. Adam Higgins had a conversation with Dave Turin 2 weeks ago with the EPA to clarify what was actually needed in the additional scope of work. On August 19th, they sent us this document with the additional scope of work. You had a chance to look at it. I had a phone conversation, email exchange with Wright Pierce today, and I'll read it to you. The original conversation I had with Kevin, he sent an email, says, "Chuck, Dave, please find our attached letter proposal with the requirements of the town's administrative order to the CWMP scope of services, which is here. Take a look through and let us know if you have any questions or additional information or needs." The cost reflects the services, what they're projecting. So I'll go into that in a moment. My reply to him was on Friday of last week was, "I want to fully understand this and I'll get back to you with any comments by Monday." And in bold letters I stated that I want a firm commitment from Wright Pierce that to the best of your understanding this will fully comply and satisfy all of the requirements with December 1st, 2022 EPA due date deadline. And that was from there. Now, since then, he had a conversation with Dave Turin today of the EPA, and this is the email he sent me in response. I spoke to Dave Turin, and this is to Dave Taylor and myself. I spoke with Dave Turin at the EPA this morning. I told him that the town currently has our proposed additional scope of services and fee attached to the current CWMP scope and fee. I also let him know that the additional scope of services would be submitted to the EPA by the 9/1/22 deadline. I asked what format they wanted the additional scope to be submitted, and he said that that's okay to just provide them with the additional scope of services and that we do not need to combine the original scope with the additional tasks. So this makes it easier. We'll provide you with a separate scope of services document that can be submitted once approved by you. Lastly, I asked EPA DEP if they would provide a quick review of the additional scope, and he noted they would. He further noted that the AO did not specifically require the EPA DEP to review and comment on the approval, but he would review to make sure there are no major concerns on their end. Wright Pierce's recommendation is to get the okay from EPA and the additional scope of service. We finally finalize a contract amendment. Now, what he means by that is to finalize the fees for the attached services. We'll draft a contract amendment once you give us the okay, and we can just wait for the EPA blessing before we finalize all signatures. So I had asked the cost for those services, for the record, will be $49,900, and that's on top of the CWMP original funds. So what I'm asking is I'd like a motion to approve the Wright Pierce additional scope of services to satisfy the EPA's September 1st deadline.
I make the motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second that motion.
I have a motion to approve the Wright Pierce proposal to update the comprehensive wastewater management plan based on the town's EPA administrative order. I'd like to take a roll vote. Mr. DeRoss, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Valley?
Yes.
And Mr. Hession's a yes. It is unanimous that we vote approval on that scope of services for an estimated $49,900. I will send that record of this vote to Chris Kenny, the attorney, and they can decide how they want to notify the EPA, whether it comes from the Board of Commissioners or the Board of or the Town Council.
Question, don't we need that final document from Wright Pierce to send?
No, what they said is
Proposal.
this is sufficient. The only modifications will be as if they have any concerns or twists, it'll modify the thing. We're gonna be getting a letter from Wright Pierce that we will be submitted. This is not the document, but all we're doing is approving the verbiage
Yes,
with no question.
which I do approve. I just want to make sure,
Okay,
do we need another document?
they're gonna send that in and hopefully we'll have that by Friday this week. And I will CC Chris Kenny, I'll then CC Chris Kenny on that, Doug Lapp, Dave, each of you and myself. And this is public record, so I might as well give you a copy of this to put in with the minutes. And you may want this based on that. This is what I read into. So you'll have that, so that can go with the minutes. The next step in that will be the November 1st deadline, which is a report, which the bulk of it is Veolia's responsibility. We can go into discussion on that at the next working session, which I'll probably ask Rick to attend. Maybe not this one coming up the 31st. Maybe I'll have him in the 14th. Wait a minute, that's pushing. No, that gives us a month. Because most of it is just data from month-end reports. So if we need to, we'll take a look at that and see if we need him in beforehand. I don't have that with me to refresh my memory of what's going to be entailed in that.
Operationally, there's a lot of different items that they're looking for. So my question is, where are we going to store this information? How are we going to gather it to submit?
Well, it should be gathered here at the sewer department. In the advent, we haven't discussed it. I should go back and do that, but it will be stored here at the sewer department, either with the superintendent or with Rick.
Okay. All right.
Now, the funding for that modification, I need you to look at that, Sherry, and where you want to take that out of that 49. Look at the original funding for the CWMP, I believe, was $300,000.
Mm-hmm.
So we may have that covered.
We might.
Because I think the CWMP was 248 and change, so we may have that covered. So you may want to just look at that. Well, I'm going to bounce back to the superintendent position update for a moment. Mr. Taylor submitted his resignation effective September 1st of 2022, expressing differences with the board, yada yada. It's his prerogative. I'm going to make a motion. We accept that letter of recommendation. Do I have a motion?
Yes, you got a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, Mr. DeRoss?
Yes.
Ms. Valley?
Yes.
Mr. Hession's a yes. I think we should put the superintendent's letter of resignation in with the minutes of the meeting. Do I have a motion for that?
I'll make motion.
I have a motion to include the superintendent's letter of resignation. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, Mr. DeRoss?
Yes.
Ms. Valley?
Yes,
And Mr. Hession's a yes. Sherry, do you have a copy of that letter?
I do.
To get you that, okay. Now, with that said, I&I account update. I think the one thing we have to clarify is that it got a little heated, if we were at the last monthly meeting, regarding the fees assessed to one of the developers. That fee was voted on, and please jump in and correct me if I'm wrong, voted and approved at the June meeting. The basis for that approval was that the applicant technically applied for a hearing in March of 2021 and would have been granted a permit before the moratorium took place. Somehow the letter requesting that hearing got misplaced. We voted and discussed it with town council. that it was only appropriate that we approve the fees that were applicable at the date of that and prior to the moratorium, which is what we explained to the EPA why we were approving them. So I'm making a motion again that we charge the developer in question the original amount of permit fees, which were $62,252. Those fees were quoted in the preliminary package, again given to the Board of Commissioners as an estimate on 4/25/22, and they were based on the fees that were applicable at the time. So with that, I'll take a motion to reaffirm that we're charging them the old fees.
Yes,
So you're making a motion, Dan?
yes.
The motion is to vote to charge
For the
Primrose
fees,
with the applicable fees based on,
the 62,000.
okay. Do I have a second on that?
I think the motion should be, fees are $62,250.
I agree.
Yes, I made the motion for
That's the, okay, the motion on the table is the fees are $62,200. And I want to make sure that we read this into the record. $41,000 will go to development. $750 will go to the permit application. $20,500 will go into the I&I remediation.
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor? So Mr. DeRoss,
Yes,
Ms. Valley,
Yes.
Mr. Hesh is a yes, and that is unanimous. Now, that means they have paid an amount, I believe, in the vicinity of $80,000, so there'll be a refund due to that developer. I had asked town council how they want that worded, and his information was that the amount of money sewer commissioners wish to assess Primrose is between the commissioners and Primrose. If you and the commissioners want that to be the number, then this is what I indicated within your rights. So based on that, we have a refund in the vicinity of $17,750 plus or minus that is due to the developer. Sherry, being our money guru, how do you want to handle that? Do you want to discuss that with Scott, or?
Yes, I had asked Scott quickly a question, and he said we just need to submit the information to him via email through Robin.
Okay. That is what we'll submit. I'm giving Sherry a package of emails with correspondence with Attorney Galvin showing the old build-out sheets of applicable at that date. I'm wondering if we should publish the rate, because that was prior to. Okay, so with that is out of the question. Now, the only thing left to do is to rebalance the I&I account, I guess, and the remediation and the development account based on the new numbers.
Yes, and I'd like to get some fresh information from the accountant to do that.
Okay. We'll leave that up to you for the next working session.
Okay.
The next item on the agenda was the current ongoing project detailed description of tasks, which we have not received yet from the superintendent. So hopefully I'll get that by the end of the week. I know we had a meeting yesterday with Hallam on the digester and the piping. I don't know how that went. Sherry, do you have a copy of those outstanding projects just to read in that we know of?
It's the same
Yeah.
that we had gotten on the previous.
Just for the record, what we have for outstanding project, what it appears to be without getting the detail. One with Wright Pierce for the CWMP study, the NIPD's permit compliance timeline, and the SSO compliance online system and alerts. I have no idea what that is. Emergency management, is completed, that states. With ACOM, we have the SSE study, which is complete. We have another flow monitoring and assessment at designated areas, which has not been started yet, and an I&I scope of work, which I think is to do the plan. I have no idea for 41.8. I think that's a scanning of the lines. So we'll have to look into that one. The I&I scope, I think, is the scanning of the pipelines up at the high school and
That's
other.
not the 5 bids to go out?
No, the 5 bids to go out was for the I&I work itself. I&I scope, you're correct. They submitted 41.8 on their bid. We've asked to get 5 competitive bids, so I don't know how we're gonna go with that. You're right, the flow management is to be another one. They have to do another SSES study on the school, but I think that's gonna tie in whoever gets the I&I scope of work will be doing that. Weston and Sampson has the butternut rehab, which is completed. A rate study, which is ongoing. Due date, I'm not sure. An I&I control plan, which I don't know if a contract's been issued. We had a quote dated July 21st for $10,000. I'm not sure if that was issued. Environmental partners, the only thing we have is an IPP program assessment and revamp per the EPA compliance at $9,000. And the assessment grant per GIS, I don't know what that means either. Hallam Engineering is the boiler digester design oversight, that is complete. And we have to go off a quote for additional gas piping. So that's one we know that will be active. Wilkinson Group falls under that. They did the digester work, and they will be doing a design for an additional gas piping. That quote is out. So really all I see out there would be the Wilkinson Group. If we get a project manager, I imagine they'll be doing the design oversight for that. But that's, again, we won't know until we get those status updates from Dave. What I would like to do is invite each of these groups in, these contractors in, to meet with us, as well as the project manager. We'd be present, just so we know what's going on.
Project overview.
Huh?
A project overview.
Yeah, just so we know what's going on. Again, that'll be up to the superintendent and all that to follow through, just give us updates, as long as we know what's out there. And like I said, I'm very vague of what's out there and who's doing what. And this, again, would be what I'd like the communication line to be with the superintendent. He can do basically whatever he wants here, as long as we're advised up front, so we know exactly what contract is going on. I mean, Dave's been doing that, but I'm just confused of what's done and what's not done. Ongoing projects, we have an effluent meter that's out, that's not only per the EPA, but that's per our permit. Dave completed the IPP audit, and we still got to replace 2 rooftop energy units. I think that's with a grant. So, with that, I want to just bounce back to the project manager. As I said, Viola will be in here with the candidate they want to propose. I still think even if we hire someone, this may be a good route to go with to help keep things and
Check.
have one person rather than have 5 engineering groups managing different projects. And again, this project manager can report to the superintendent however we see, as long as we get updates.
Yeah, I think ultimately the superintendent will be managing them, but
Yep.
in the interim, as the new superintendent is up to speed, and it will kind of corral what we have going now.
And maybe this project manager just give a monthly update to the superintendent to present to the meeting, but just CC us. I really would like to get out of the sewer business. We have some time. Do you have any other items you wish to discuss? Sherry?
We approved 320 Concord Street. Did we write them a
Correct.
formal letter? Do we have a document?
That's up to the superintendent.
Okay.
The conditions that we put in was, just refresh everyone, the conditions of the permit would be a grinder station, and the manhole is to be on town property. So it'd be independent from the third neighbors at 323 Concord Street, so no interference with their line. I think we need clarification for the record on the right-of-way that's there, some kind of a document. But I think that should be up to the property owners to work out. The right-of-way for people to know what's for the sewer line. They shared a joint input.
Do we know if the superintendent is working on that letter? Do we need to make that request?
I don't know, we can make that request. I'll send an email to him and CC the two of you.
You still taking your emails?
Oh.
You still taking the emails?
Yeah. Do you want to suggest anything for the next meeting?
Did we extend an invite to Laurie Childs to attend these meetings for EPA?
I put her on the CC list for the agenda for today. What I'll do is I'll send her an email reminding her of the working sessions.
Is the meeting tonight?
No.
No, okay.
I know she was on the distribution list for this because I sent it to her when I sent the draft scope out to Robin.
Okay.
Can you think of anything else? How about agenda items for the next meeting? So the agenda for the next meeting will be the project manager with Veolia. And I think what I'd like to do is EPA review the September 1 submittal, make sure it got in,
Yeah.
and review the requirements for November.
Yeah, I'd like to see that mapped out and who's doing what.
I had the a timeline I put out of the due dates, but we can be more specific. What I would like to do is, you think you could have an update on the funding on the accounts?
I do.
And again, we should just review the interview. Now, that's September 7th, 6 o'clock as it stands now, 1 at 6, 1 at 7.
Okay.
And it will not be, it'll be recorded. It'll be recorded to be played back later. No public invited, just for confidential, just for lack of confusion. And that's a Wednesday, so you should be all done with your wedding. With that said, I'll take a motion to win the meeting.
Motion.
I have a motion to win today's executive working session. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, Mr. DeRoss,
Yes.
Ms. Valley,
Yes.
Mr. Heshion's a yes. Thank you all for attending.